The hardest part of moving abroad isn't finding a job. It isn't learning the language. It isn't the paperwork. And it isn't the culture shock. The hardest part is something nobody warns you about. It's waking up one day and realizing that you feel completely alone. Not physically alone, emotionally alone. You can be standing in a crowded train station in Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt, or Cologne, surrounded by thousands of people and still feel like you're the only person in the world. And that feeling catches many immigrants completely by surprise. Because before they moved abroad, they imagined many challenges. But loneliness wasn't one of them. They prepared for visas. They prepared for housing. They prepared for work. They prepared for bureaucracy. What they didn't prepare for was the emotional cost of leaving behind everything familiar. And if you're living abroad right now, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. The strange thing about loneliness abroad is that it doesn't always arrive immediately. The first few weeks can actually feel exciting. Everything is new. Every street is an adventure. Every train ride feels interesting. Every supermarket is different. You spend your days exploring, learning, discovering. But eventually, normal life begins. The vacation feeling disappears, and reality slowly takes its place. That's when many immigrants experience what I call the silence. The silence arrives when there is nobody to call after work. The silence arrives when you finish your day and realize there is no familiar friend waiting for you. The silence arrives when a small problem happens and you suddenly miss having people who understand your situation without explanation. This is often the moment when people start questioning their decision. Did I make a mistake? Was moving abroad really worth it? Why does everyone else seem happy while I feel disconnected? The truth is simple. Most people aren't talking about it, but many are experiencing it. One of the biggest mistakes people make before moving abroad is believing that a new country automatically creates a new life. It doesn't. A new country creates an opportunity. The life still has to be built, and building a life takes time. Think about your hometown for a moment. The people you know, the places you visit, the routines you follow, the shops you use, the shortcuts you know, the food you enjoy, the small conversations that happen without effort. Most of these things took years to develop. Years. Yet many immigrants expect themselves to rebuild everything in a matter of weeks. That expectation creates disappointment because relationships do not happen overnight. Belonging does not happen overnight. Community does not happen overnight. Every immigrant starts as a stranger, and strangers don't immediately feel at home. There is another part of loneliness that few people talk about. You don't always miss the big things. In fact, sometimes the things you miss most seem completely ridiculous. A particular meal, a familiar smell, a local joke, a neighborhood sound, the way people greet each other back home. The small things become emotional because they represent familiarity. And familiarity is something we often take for granted until it disappears. Many people think they miss their country, but often they miss certainty. Back home, you know how things work. You know what to expect. You know the unwritten rules. Abroad, everything requires energy. Every task, every appointment, every conversation, every decision. Even buying something simple can become mentally exhausting when you're doing it in a different language, in a different system. That constant mental effort can quietly drain you. And when you're mentally tired, loneliness feels heavier. There is also a loneliness that comes from success. Nobody talks about this one. Imagine you move abroad, you work hard, you learn the language, you adapt, you build a better life. Sounds great, right? It is. But something unexpected can happen. The more your life changes, the harder it becomes for some people back home to relate to your experience. Your daily reality becomes different. Your problems become different. Your opportunities become different. You start seeing the world through a different lens, and without realizing it, you begin changing. Not because you're better than anyone, not because you've forgotten where you came from, but because every environment shapes the people who live in it. This can create distance, not hostility, not conflict, just distance. And distance can feel lonely, especially when you expected people to understand your journey. Another difficult reality is that life continues without you. Birthdays happen, weddings happen, family gatherings happen, children grow up, friends create new memories, and social media allows you to watch it all from thousands of kilometers away. You see the photos, you see the celebrations, you see the moments. And for a brief second, it feels like you're watching your old life continue without you. That feeling can be painful. Not because you regret moving, but because you realize that every decision comes with a trade-off. When you choose one path, you automatically leave another path behind. This is true for everyone, but immigrants feel it more intensely because their decision often involves an entire country. The interesting thing is that loneliness itself begins to change over time. At first, loneliness feels like loss. Then it feels like uncertainty. Then something unexpected happens. It begins to teach you. You start learning things about yourself that would have remained hidden if you had never moved. You discover how independent you really are. You discover how resourceful you can be. You discover that you can solve problems without relying on people around you. You discover strengths you didn't know existed. And slowly, loneliness transforms into something else. Self-reliance, confidence, growth. This doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. Many immigrants eventually reach a moment where they realize they are no longer afraid of being alone. Not because they stopped valuing relationships, but because they stopped needing constant validation. They become comfortable with themselves, comfortable with silence, comfortable with their own company. And that is a powerful transformation. There is another hidden gift that moving abroad offers. It forces you to become intentional. Back home, friendships often happen automatically. School, work, neighborhoods, family connections. Abroad, things are different. You must actively create your social life. You must intentionally build relationships. You must deliberately step outside your comfort zone. That process can feel uncomfortable, but it often produces stronger relationships. Why? Because they're chosen, not inherited, not automatic, chosen. And chosen relationships often have remarkable value. This is why many immigrants eventually build incredibly diverse circles of friends. People from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds. People they never would have met if they had stayed where they were. The journey is difficult, but the rewards can be extraordinary. Let's talk about one more thing, the biggest opportunity hidden inside loneliness. Most people see loneliness as a problem. Few recognize it as an invitation to reinvent yourself. When you move abroad, many of the labels attached to your old life disappear. Nobody knows your history. Nobody knows your reputation. Nobody knows your past mistakes. Nobody knows what people expected you to become. For the first time in years, perhaps for the first time ever, you get to decide who you want to be. That is incredibly powerful. You can learn new skills, build new habits, create a new future. You are no longer limited by old expectations. You are writing a new chapter. And while that freedom can feel overwhelming, it can also be life-changing. Many people spend their entire lives wondering what they could become. Immigrants are often forced to find out. Because moving abroad demands growth. It demands courage. It demands adaptation. And those challenges shape people. The version of you that arrives is rarely the same version that remains. That's why so many immigrants eventually say something surprising. The hardest years became the most important years. The lonely moments became the moments that built resilience. The uncertainty became confidence. The struggle became growth. And the person they became was stronger because of it. If you're currently experiencing loneliness abroad, understand something important. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not failing. You are not weak. You are experiencing something that countless immigrants experience. You are building a life, and building anything worthwhile takes time. One day, the streets that feel unfamiliar today will feel normal. The language that feels difficult today will feel natural. The city that feels foreign today will feel like home. And the loneliness that feels overwhelming today will become part of a story you tell in the future. A story about how you survived, how you adapted, and how you grew. Because the truth is this, moving abroad doesn't just change your location. It changes you. And while that transformation can be uncomfortable, it can also become one of the greatest experiences of your life. So let me ask you something. If you've ever lived abroad, what was the hardest part of the journey for you? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might help someone who is struggling right now. And if you're building a new life abroad, subscribe to the Immigrant Advantage. Because success abroad is not just about money. It's about becoming the person capable of creating a life anywhere in the world.